All right, nice rainy day, rainy winter day. It's one of those things that blew my mind. I never thought I would think this because as a kid I hated snow so much, but rain is worse than snow.
No, I don't know. I'd take rain any day over snow.
I don't know. I came to this conclusion when I was on the West Coast and it just wouldn't stop raining. And yeah, no, I don't think so myself. I think rain's worse. Like today, just I'm all wet and my pants are wet and my coat's still gonna be wet. Like after we're done here, I gotta go home in the cold and the wet. Like if it was snowing.
I'll loan you a jacket like this to wear under your coat, so you should be at least warm on the upper half.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, we got some old sweaters here I brought up for Neil, so you can... Are you cold now? I can get you a sweater right now.
I mean, mostly my pants. They're still wet, you know. But, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just Canada. What can you do? But, yeah, no, it's like when it snows, you know, you can go outside. You can do stuff. The rain just shuts you down. It's the end. I should not have walked through that. But here we are, so fuck it. Let's watch some TV. So this week's one is pretty famous, and I was thinking you might be able to get it just if I just do this. Calling all cars.
Car 54, where are you?
Well, okay, maybe not calling all cars. Focus on the talking into a watch. I've got my transistor.
Dick Tracy?
Yeah, there you go, Dick Tracy. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking. I guess Dick Tracy doesn't say calling all cars, right?
Yeah, see, I think of Dick Tracy more as a comic book than a TV show.
Yeah, Dick Tracy, famous as crap. Like, you know how with was it Buck Rogers where we watched the serial and the TV show? This one also had a serial, and I was like, oh, I guess I could dig up the serial. But I didn't bother because once I looked into it more, there's so much Dick Tracy stuff. Like that serial, just the tip of the iceberg. It's like, and it's the same actor in the serial, so
okay.
So
I can't say I've ever seen Dick Tracy TV show.
Yeah, for me it was. I mean, I feel like Dick Tracy maybe has finally kind of fallen away from pop culture, but for me it was that 1990 movie.
With
Madonna and Warren Beatty.
And Warren Beatty, and Warren had that beautiful golden coat that he wore.
Yeah, it was the colors in that were really, like they were going for almost a cartoony look.
I don't even know if I knew there was a TV series.
Yeah, so I'll give you the rundown here of my little research I did. So the comic strip debuted in 1931, and his name was originally Plainclothes Tracy.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the editor or whatever was like, call him Dick Tracy. And it is definitely sticks out a lot better. But that does, I never really thought about it, but yeah, his name isn't Dick. Dick is his, detective designation. He's Plainclothes Tracy, or now he's Dick Tracy.
I always presumed Dick was his first name.
I mean, maybe it is also, because I couldn't find what his name is, but that's where it came from. It's like, it was based on what he does for his day job. and he's based on Elliot Ness, who I looked into him a little bit, because, obviously the Untouchables and everything's based on him. And apparently he wasn't really even that famous when he died. It wasn't till later people,
when they made the TV series of the Untouchables with Robert Stack, Elliot Ness became famous, really famous. Now, he may have had a bit of fame before that, but that television show did it for him.
So the guy who made the comic strip, Chester Gould, so he drew it from 1931 until 1977.
Yeah.
That's a fucking run.
Yeah.
And it went for so long, like weird stuff happened in there. Like in the 1960s, there was what people call the space period, where Dick Tracy actually went on like rocket ships and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, because they just did the show, the strip just ran for too long. They're like,
that is in the TV. That's in the comics.
Just in the comics.
Comics.
The other thing, because you think of Dick Tracy as like such a clean-cut, square-jawed guy, but in the 70s he had longer hair and a mustache to try to fit in with the.
I vaguely remember him with a mustache, and it didn't go over.
Yeah, eventually there was a comic strip where some of his friends like basically held him down and shaved it off. But just that whole style and movement was so big that even Dick Tracy was like, I do not fit in. Like, he must have seemed like a total narc, total square.
See, and he'd probably be following an image of a guy like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
See, he had the mustache.
Right.
And Tom Selleck.
Right.
Those guys all had the big bush under the nose.
So it, of course, also had a radio show, just like everything. Started in 1934, ran for ages. The serials started in 1937. They made the first proper film in 1945. And then, like I said, 1990 was the film I knew. So this TV show only ran from 1950 to 1951. Dick Tracy was played by a guy named Ralph Bird, who was also Dick Tracy in the serials. They're just like, here's the guy, here's Dick Tracy. And it was criticized for its violence, but it wasn't canceled because of that. It was canceled just because the guy Bird, he just died unexpectedly of a heart attack.
Oh.
So that's why this one was not well known, and stuff just didn't have a chance to get off the ground.
And so they didn't make any more TV shows after that?
Not that I could find, no. Like, still just movies and stuff intermittently, and then that one in 1990, I think, was the last big hurrah. And the comic strip kept going after Chester Gould retired with other people, but I think it's finally done, too. It all just ground down, but it took a long time. Dick Tracy was going strong for ages. And yeah, like, everyone still knows Dick Tracy and stuff, so yeah, guy did good. So this episode, I don't think is the first one. I think it's just one. It's just one that I found on YouTube, so...
No, so there he is.
Yeah, so...
He's got the big hat on.
Yeah.
Doesn't have quite a square enough jaw, though, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, neither did Warren Beatty. You can't have... I mean, he was literally a square in the comic. His chin was not even a 90-degree angle. It was more sharp than that. All right, so yeah, I guess we'll just watch this and see what happens.
See what we think of it.
If nothing else, it's a nice excuse for my pants to dry out a little. So, low bar, Dick Tracy. Let's see if you can meet it. 25 minutes. Yes, look at his chin. You could poke someone's eye out with that guy's chin.
And the nose, too. Look at that.
Yeah, the big hook.
Ding, ding, ding. Shaky secret treasure.
Oh yeah, like the cartoon turns into the guy, and yeah, that guy is not the cartoon. Yeah, it's weird to think even at this point, 1950, if the strip started in 1931, like, yeah, this has been a couple decades of Dick Tracy.
Yeah, it's almost 20 years.
So it was a little weird where, 1952,
52.
So this must have been one of the very last ones. Man, it's a little weird too that actually kind of, right at the end, kind of got me, where I'm like, oh, that last twist, that's pretty cool. And then all of a sudden the episode was just over. You don't really have time to think about it. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd say that's pretty average. It's like I didn't have any problem with it, but it wasn't like great or anything.
No, but not bad for early TV.
Yeah.
Because again, in 1952, well, by 1952, you're probably getting a lot of people owning TVs by that time in the States now. And this would be American for sure. But the quality was good.
Yeah.
The sets were
yeah, even at
good.
first I was like, okay, they're in an apartment, and then an upholsterer, and then back to the apartment. And I thought it was going to be one of those, like that Buck Rogers show where it's like, all right, we're just not leaving this one set. But by the end, there was like 4 different sets. That's not that bad.
Because they had the cafe, and they had not just the interior of the cafe, they had the outside where they kind of very conveniently get in there. The doors were open.
Yeah.
or just a quick little jimmy of the lock and they're in. So that would almost be like a 5th set or 4.5 sets. Not bad for a 25-minute show.
Yeah, you can definitely see things kind of ramping up production-wise and stuff. And yeah, it had a little bit of panache. Like I think the lighting was deliberate, of like the super noir look of really heavy shadows and stuff.
Yeah, I think so too, because that would we're dealing with bad guys here, and night. Everything was night.
And that one shot, too, it was really cool, of Dick Tracy's shadow when he was, like, confronting the bad guys, because I do think the shadow is supposed to kind of, make you think about the cartoon more. Of like, here's his profile.
They definitely put emphasis on his shadow, because you could see the shadow of the other 2 guys, but they were very minimal, whereas that was almost a full body, well, 3/4 body.
And it was nice, too, because a lot of these plots, it's like they start with an okay idea and then they kind of go nowhere, where I feel like this one was a little bit the other way. It started off seeming really lame, and then it was actually kind of neat. So it's just this lady in an apartment, and these goons are ransacking the place, which, again, I just think it's weird that they did that while she was home. Like, maybe they just wait till she goes out to get some bread or something. But they're wrecking up all her upholstery, looking for a treasure map from an old job that they did with their old partner. It was a shaky, flat top, and their old partner was blow top.
Blow top.
And yeah, I was going to say too, it's more down to earth than the comic strip or the Warren Beatty thing, where like Shaky, he shook a little at the end when they finally caught him, but he wasn't like out of where in like the Warren Beatty one, like I was saying, there was like Prune Face had a gross face, Baby Face had a little tiny face on a big head, and like everybody, Flat Top literally had a flat head, where it's not like that in this. It's just people just doing dastardly deeds.
Well, this is just a crime drama. But it had that twist at the end, which totally unexpected to have that girl.
Yeah, so basically these guys are trying to they're tearing up her upholstery because a map to $100,000 from an old bank job is supposed to be in one of the chairs. But instead they just find a note that says, like, this was reupholstered at blah, blah, blah. So they got to go to the upholstery place, and they shake down the upholsterer, and then... let's see. I mean, I don't know. I guess I could go through all the beats of it, but who gives a shit? Yeah, the part that's interesting is at the very end when everyone converges where the money's hidden, and you find out this lady who had the apartment wasn't just a random lady who had the apartment. She was the sister of the guy who did the original bank job. And so it's like the bad guys, they want the money. She wants the money. The upholsterer has worked his way into this, and he also overheard Dick Tracy talk about it, so he's there trying to get the money. He's the only one who didn't make it, right? The poor upholsterer got gunned down in cold blood.
Oh, but didn't die right away.
No, it came back for one last
one last little show.
Yeah, it was funny because you think he's dead. And then, in the climactic Mexican standoff at the end, the upholsterer comes back to life just long enough to go, to shoot his gun once, and, like, no one's getting that money except...
And it's interesting that after Dick Tracy and his cohort arrest the two bad guys who are still left, they've already shot the upholsterer. Nobody checks to see whether he's dead or alive or indifferent. Dick Tracy tells the cohort, call the police. Nobody says, call the ambulance.
Right.
Nobody checks on Buddy on the floor there, who comes to for a little bit and then, he's gone.
Yeah, and I was saying too how it's funny that that this show got singled out as violent because the gunfights didn't seem any different than Lone Ranger or whatever. But you did mention like they did tie up this lady and turn on the gas in her apartment and leave her to suffocate. That's a little fucked up, I guess. Yeah,
because she was at that point in time, we believe she was just innocent young woman caught up in this criminal activity that she had no part of, and yet she's going to die this slow, horrifying death by gas.
Right.
So that's kind of...
And I do like how, with her character, it's like one of those things where things that seem like kind of maybe bad writing turn out to have a reason. Like, it's not just coincidence that she's in this apartment where all this criminal shit went down, and she really seemed like a cool customer the whole time. Like, she really took it in stride that she had guns held on her and was tied up and was almost suffocated and all this stuff. And it's like, it's because she's the cold-hearted sister of the cold-hearted criminal. It's like, okay, that stuff actually makes sense. It's not just that she's the toughest dame in all of New York.
Right, because any other person would probably be hysterical.
Yeah, you'd at least be a little shaken up.
And you'd be saying, I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving here. I'm dumping this apartment. If this kind of crap goes on in this neighborhood, I'm cutting out. But no, she stayed.
Yeah.
But we know a reason at the end.
And she would have got away with it, too, if it wasn't for that damn Dick Tracy.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And the little twist in plot at the end definitely was
Yeah, it seems like one of those things, like if the actor who played Dick Tracy, if he hadn't had the heart attack and ended the show, it's like I can't say for sure this would have gone on to be a big famous show, but it certainly could have. Like, it seemed like they had enough there that they could keep going with this. It didn't have like I think the crappiest show we've seen yet was that Buck Rogers one. Like, that one deserved to get canceled. That one sucked. Where this is definitely higher value. Like, people are trying a lot harder.
Yeah, it had a pretty good plot, right, even though it kind of dragged there a bit. But that's okay too, because oftentimes when you're watching shows like that, as they're trying to build the premise, and you've got to introduce information.
Right.
So it drags a little bit, but it came together pretty darn fast at the end.
Yeah, like I think it's a good sign when you at the end of the show, like we're like, this is pretty fun, to talk about stuff that happened. It's relatively exciting because at the halfway point, it didn't feel that way at all. Where it's just this like they find the upholstery thing and they go to see the upholsterer, and then Dick Tracy finds the upholstery thing and he goes to see the upholsterer, and it's like, Jesus, this is a really boring trail of crumbs. but it all came together.
Yes, but it all came together, and it all was necessary, really, in order for that ending to work. You had to be introduced to all those people. You had to believe at first that they were just innocent in everything.
Right.
For the effect of them, they were all crooks. at the end. All of them. Even the upholsterer, everybody was a crook.
It's one of those things, though, too, it's better not to think about it too hard, because now that I'm thinking about it a little bit, it's like, okay, so the original guy, he had the map hidden in the upholstery, but he knew Shaky knew that's where the map was, so he didn't want to leave it there because he knew Shaky could come find it. So he took the chairs to an upholsterer and had the upholsterer drill a hole in the leg of the chair. So instead of the map being in the back of the chair, he just moved it to the leg of the chair. Don't put it in the chair at all. Put it somewhere else. But yeah, it's like you wouldn't think about that at the time. But then as you think about it after, you're like, what is that? What in the hell? But yeah, whatever. I have a feeling they probably just were going through like a phone book and they're like, yeah, like what can we work into a... Because I'm sure every episode is Dick Tracy following the clues. So it's like, where has he not followed a clue yet? Upholsterer?
Yeah, but think about it. You would go and... How many movies have you seen where somebody goes in with a knife and totally slashes up the upholstery? Have you ever seen one where there was a hole drilled in the leg of a chair underneath the caster?
No. So, I mean,
Never.
That'd be fine. But, I mean, again, you could just move it anywhere. I don't know, put it in a painting. Maybe don't put it in that apartment.
People
I don't know.
put it in paintings over there. People are always putting stuff in the back of paintings.
Yeah.
But actually, I got to say, I've never heard of anybody drilling a hole in the leg of a chair and sticking the map up in the leg of the chair. Hey,
Yeah.
that's a first for me.
Yeah, that part I didn't mind. It's just if you're going to go through the effort of moving it, it's funny to only move it 6 inches, not to move it somewhere significantly different.
Well, here was the other. Why get the chairs reupholstered? Well, I suppose you just don't go to a reupholsterer and say, drill a hole in the leg of a chair.
Well, it's funny, too, that he tied in to loop the upholsterer into it, where he's like, okay, here's the deal, upholsterer. I've got a map, treasure map in this, but I need you to move the treasure map, and I'll give you $1,000 if you don't tell anyone. It's like, do not involve the upholsterer.
Like, why wouldn't he have just gone to, well, it wouldn't have been Canadian Tire, but the local hardware store, get himself a drill a hole in the leg of the old chair, and put the map in there. That's, yeah.
So again, yeah, it's like this followed the perfect curve where it's like, it starts off, you're like, okay, I don't quite get all this. And then by the end of the episode, you're like, oh, that's actually really neat. But then afterward, you're like, wait a second, though. But that's fun, too. It's fun to just like...
Yeah, why did he have to do all that?
Yeah.
And if I was one of those crooks and I broke into that girl's apartment and I knew there were just those 2 fancy chairs, I would just take the chairs and go out.
Yeah, he's like tearing... Well, that's... I mean, it just started off on the wrong foot where the goon was cutting up the chairs while this lady's asleep like 10 feet away. And then he knocks over a lamp and that wakes her up. But he was not being subtle.
No, he was ripping and tearing and the chair fell over and then the lamp fell over. But yeah, why not just pick up the chair? It's not like it's a great big sideboard that you've got to manhandle your way out. Just 2 little light side chairs. Pick them up, go outside.
Yeah.
Put them in your car, go somewhere, tear them apart.
Yeah, and then if you don't find anything, then, yeah, come back and case the joint and whatever.
Oh, well, we shouldn't dissect it too much. It was fun to watch. It was well done.
Yeah.
The photography was really good. The sets were pretty good. The acting was decent.
It really was, though. They did work in the radio wristwatch, but it was the least cool. Like, instead of him just like, like my vision of it is like Tracy hanging off the side of a car with the Tommy gun talking into his thing like, okay, I'll meet you there. Where in this it was just his schlubby partner tied up and just desperately trying to maneuver himself just so he can call Tracy, who's also tied up somewhere else. It's like, this is a really sad use of the communicator phone.
However, if I had watched that show in 1952, I would watch it again.
Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be waiting for next week to say, I think I'll just tune into Dick Tracy and see what little twist of fate there might be in the show next week.
It's cool, too, like those wristwatches are so iconic that, like, like when the iPhone came out, people were like, oh, it's almost like a tricorder from Star Trek or whatever. Like, now we have them. Same thing with Apple Watches. Those came out, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's just a watch where you can see your email and how much running you did that day and whatever bullshit. But that's what everybody said when those came out. It's like, oh, the Dick Tracy thing is real now, So, yeah, Dick Tracy, you can't argue with that. Pretty famous.
Yeah, which is pretty good when you consider that in this century, those things have come to fruition. But in 1931, Chester Gould had that all figured out there, what you could do with your little watch on your wrist.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it is one of those things too. With it's funny to read about the comic strip going to space and stuff because it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't things. Like I can see why after 30 or 40 years you get tired of doing hard-boiled crime dramas, but that is kind of what you got to do. That's what Dick Tracy is. Like what we just saw. Like it is Dick Tracy. Can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You know,
and there will always be crime on Earth to fight. So really, you don't need to go off into outer space and find it in other worlds because it's all here. And it'll always be here.
I wonder how those went too, because I mean that is the whole, Dick Tracy's thing is he's just the genius level, Sherlock Holmes. He can put the pieces together, whatever. I wonder what he did in outer space. Just like I can see that the hydrogen canister has had the knob twisted, and this leads to the I don't know. Like I can't even imagine what kind of did the criminals go to outer space too? I don't know. It's
they just found new ones.
I guess
it's like that Buck Rogers that we saw where we watched. Was it Buck Rogers where we watched the movie too?
Yeah,
and they went off, and he just fit into the new world.
Yeah,
he knew how to run all their machinery. He just took charge. Well, maybe that's what Dick Tracy did too. He just goes off to other worlds, and there's criminal types there. It doesn't matter that it's another world. He's Dick Tracy. He can just solve anything, take care of anything.
Anyway, all right, one more week down. I don't know what's up next week, because who knows, but there we go. Dick Tracy, a classic.
Yep, and we'll give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, especially, and again, we didn't even know there was this short-running show in the 50s, and now we know, which is, again, kind of the whole point of this. Let's just learn about shit.
We would definitely watch it again.
Yeah. Now I'm off to head out into the rain. Just to tie up that episode.